Now we're going to begin discussing our topics. So in this section, we will be addressing some reasons why people choose to go to college, as well as some of the more common concerns students will have as you all begin this journey. We'll also start to think about what kind of college environment you're looking for, since there are so many options when it comes to college. Before I talk about these concerns, though, I would like to hear a little bit from you. So in a moment, you'll see a Jamboard link in the chat, and feel free to click on it and type directly onto the Jamboard, or you can put it in the chat or come up mute. So add as many things as you can think of when considering this topic, and add a +1 to any that resonate with you. It's okay if we have multiple of the same answers. You can also add a +1 to a no if you share the same thought. So the first question that you're going to be seeing here is, what are some of the reasons why people decide to go to college? I'm seeing some really good answers here. Um, just gonna give it a couple of more seconds to just kind of get a couple more answers in. Once again, feel free to add your answer into the chat. It's completely okay if you don't really know how to use Jamboard. It's definitely something that we're going to keep working on as we go through the workshop series. I'm seeing some really great answers here. Let's see. The amount of money that are required to stay and go to college, absolutely. Higher difficulty of work, I know that that can definitely be concerning, especially as you go into a higher level of education. Selecting your major and what you're going to do. Yes, I know that sometimes you might be going into college really knowing exactly what you want to do, and sometimes you don't, and that's completely okay. Student loans, we're definitely going to be covering that in a second. We're getting some really great answers here. It seems to me that one quick question. I think you are all only able to see the what's intimidating about college part. I'm not sure if that's just an issue on my side, but please let me know if you're able to see the first question. Definitely getting some really good answers here. All right. Thank you so much for letting me know. Oh, there it is. Okay. So we're just going to go over the first question for a second here. So what are some of the reasons why people go to college? And absolutely better opportunities, find happiness and a purpose in life. Absolutely. I know that for me, education definitely was a way to really figure out what I wanted to do with my time after high school. Experiencing something new, that's definitely a reason why a lot of people go to college. I know for me that I went to school pretty far from home. So we really wanted to see that really just newness everywhere. Higher education and better prepare for their future career. Yes, there are definitely some opportunities that are a little bit not necessarily able to be pursued without a degree. So definitely going to be able to get that prep in. See, there's also Better job prospects, absolutely. We're going to be covering that later on. And really, like, what is the value of getting a college degree? And definitely a great place to figure out really what you're passionate about, because once you go to college, you have access to really a lot of sources of knowledge and opportunities to really dig into all of your curiosities. Um, it seems that a lot of you also answered the second question, went ahead and answered the second question. So we're just going to go ahead and move straight in. Another question that I had for you all was, what are some things that intimidate people about college? And definitely there's a good amount of answers on here as well. It's definitely a lot of things that people are agreeing on. So yes, once again, work overload and time management, that's definitely some skills that are very important to build as you're going into college. And really trying to figure out how you can build those can be a little bit difficult, especially sometimes we get so used to that workload when we're in high school, and really like getting ready to learn how to navigate what it's like to not have that similar structure in high school. Moving into dorms and new state, absolutely. For many people, going to college is probably the first time that they have ever been able to really be on their own completely. So being able to just have all this freedom and all this independence can definitely be a lot very intimidating once you start working and really living with people that you probably have never met before. Managing your academic and social life, yes, absolutely. So trying to figure out really how to find that midpoint of really balancing your work and life. Definitely very important, and a kind of intimidating part. I know for a fact that when I came into college, I was thinking was really the academic aspect at times and just like figuring out how I was going to manage that, but definitely trying to figure out that good midpoint between working too much and having too much fun can be something that's intimidating about the college process. We will also be talking later on about some of the reasons that people go to college that might not be necessarily something that might be your own personal motivation. So once, like, for example, maybe you have some certain motivations that are at least external, such as maybe your parents have wanted you to pursue a certain type of career. And really, we'll be talking about this a little bit in a couple of minutes, really handling what's it like to go to college and figuring out the midpoint and that compromise between those outside motivations and your motivations for going to college. Really trying to figure out your why college. These are all really great answers. And I really appreciate everyone's being so involved in here. I'm seeing a couple of really good answers as well. So your dream job may require a bachelor's degree. Absolutely. We're going to be talking about that as well. So it seems like we've pretty much slowed down a little bit on some of these answers. So I think we're gonna go ahead and move on. Um, all of these are really valid points and valid reasons for being intimidated by the college process. So even if you feel like maybe there's nothing that really intimidates you about the college process, it can be a lot to really consider, especially once you go into something that feels so new. And for all of us, that we might not be intimidated at all by the same thing. We will begin to address some of these concerns and really gain some insight into these areas. So we're going to move on to kind of like what are some of these common concerns that you all have been putting up on here, and really maybe something that you hadn't really quite considered before. So the first concern that really comes to mind when we hear that word college is probably the college application process. And no need to panic just yet. We know the application process really is a lot of work, but we will explore some strategies so you can successfully navigate this process and stay on track towards your goal, while really trying to just lower those stress levels. Oh, it seems that my screen is not sharing. I'm gonna go ahead and try to fix that real quick. All right, can everyone see my screen? Let me know. Just click on. All right, thank you so much, Abby. So before we really start to address some of these like more specific concerns, I would like to hear from you guys. what about the college application process intimidates you more? So that way we can really start to target those more stressing parts and have a general idea of how we're feeling in this room right now. So I would like to just let you guys know that some of these parts may not apply to you, especially if you're considering options such as community college, but just go ahead and select what does apply. This also applies to everyone else. If you're not quite sure what intimidates you in this process, or maybe none of these do, feel free to just select those options. If you're unable to access the poll, you can put your answers in the chat. I'm seeing some really, really great answers here. We're gonna keep going for a couple of more, about 30 more seconds here. Really just see those answers coming in. Right, seems like it's pretty much slowed down so far. In a second, I'm just going to end the poll and so you can see what some of your peers are actually thinking as well, and really see like that there's a lot of concerns that are definitely shared by a lot of students, especially in this moment, since many of you get all are in the same, really in the same boat. Just like 2 more seconds here, and I think that's about it. Okay, let's see. So it seems like the higher one, okay, let's see if I remember how to read percentages. The higher ones definitely are completing scholarship applications, the personal statement, and the SAT and ACT. Yes, these are some absolutely definitely some of the most integral parts when you think about the college application process and really like trying to figure out um, what are some of the ones that may cause us a little bit more stresses. So definitely when we think about the college application process, we do think about one, there's definitely some creative elements to it. So for example, that personal statement, definitely shows some skills and some things that maybe not be as completely like focused and direct as maybe showing like your grades and your extracurriculars and things like that. So it can definitely be a little bit of an intimidating part. And also some of those things like your grades can be a little bit concerning or like scary when we're going through the college application process. But over the next couple of minutes, we're definitely going to be talking about those things. So once again, all of these reasons are very, very valid because we all know the college applications are a lot of work. And it is completely normal to be intimidated by specific parts of the application, whether you're applying to a four-year college or if you're applying to community college, where there may be less steps, but there's things like maybe the personal statement does not apply, but things like other paperwork really does. I'd like you all to take a moment and reflect on who is part of your college application support system, because as you go through this process, you're really going to have a lot of support from all the people that really make up your support system. So I would like you all to really reflect on this and start to think about who are the people that make up your personal support system. Feel free to come up new or chat in some examples. So these can be people that you have maybe in school or outside of school. So when you think of who is part of your college support system, who comes to mind really? Yes, I'm seeing some really great replies here. Your teachers, counselors, parents. When I talk about this personal support system, I am really just anyone that you consider to be part of your college support system. So as some of you are putting in here, this can be like family members, some teachers, LGR, absolutely. You may have mentors, family, your teachers. You might have a very specific teacher that you definitely have built a very good relationship with, and these can all be pretty integral part of your college application process. and really like helping you through that support system, really helping you through that entire process. Yes, these are awesome, amazing answers. So what I'm seeing here is family, teachers, counselors, your college advisors. Maybe there's a specific within these categories. There's definitely maybe some specific person that you really resonate with has provided you the most support. So this can be like just, for example, just like a teacher in general, maybe your mom, your sibling, or definitely more specific people. But I just like to all to remember that really the support system is here for you every step of the way, and LGR is here for you every step of the way. So over the next couple of months, I'll be holding workshops on some of these topics that might be a little bit concerning when we think about the college application process, and I'll be holding these workshops as well as sending guides and other resources. You're also able to text me anytime you have any questions. Um, Feel free to and really reach out to me any other time. You don't need to feel like you can only text me when there's a prompt sent out. Together, we're going to be working on really getting ahead of the game and breaking down the tasks into steps so that we can make this process a lot more manageable and get a lot of these stresses really out of the way. So right now, during your summer before your senior year, it's really the best time to jumpstart the process. So use all your resources, and once again, reach out to me anytime. I'm really happy to help in any way I can. So as you go through this process, you'll realize that most of the work here is really getting to know yourself. So when you are really just getting into this college application process, really want to start to thinking about like, who am I? What are my priorities and my values? All of this is really just a part of uncovering. All this is all just part of your journey of self discovery. So this idea might feel a little bit comfortable, but over the next few months, we're really going to be working on really getting comfortable with yourself and getting to know your likes and your dislikes, your values. So it might seem a little bit silly to think about basically having to play a game of 21 questions with yourself, but it truly is the most important part of this process. You'll find that all of this builds up to the idea of fit and finding the right place for you to succeed and really just enjoy your experience. So, this process of self reflection will not look the same for everyone. It will probably lead you to having more say and thoughts on some things rather than others. And you really start to really build your like make or break list. We'll be guiding you through this process by providing you with things to consider. So, for example, soon I will be asking you all what types of colleges interest you. So we're going to be moving on to another one of our concerns. So we know that college is a big transition moment for everyone. The idea of being in a new environment may not be appealing to everyone, especially when they consider things like leaving family, friends, and other parts of people of your high school community, or really just your hometown or state. Others will jump at the opportunity to meet new friends and really experience things that are out of their comfort zone. All of these feelings are completely normal. And it's totally fine. And really, it's totally normal to feel both excitement and hesitation at the same time. Starting in this school can be hard, and immersing yourself in a new community can be a big adjustment. These are both themes that are very common with the college transition. And you know what? That's completely okay. So, for example, you all know that I'm currently school in Massachusetts, but I am originally from all the way down south in Memphis, Tennessee. Moving to the Northeast was a very huge change. Um, and I was both like really, really excited, but I was also a little bit terrified because I was really afraid to trade in my nice, sunny South for the frigid North. But at the same time, I was really seeking to put myself really far out of my comfort zone. And you know what? It all ended up working out. And now I find Massachusetts to really be my second home. So, and I also have learned that I can thrive in unknown places. And this is something that you're really going to start to think about and maybe realize about yourself as you go into this process and start looking into some colleges and really build your list. What really helped me feel confident enough to dive into a new environment was the fact that I had focused on choosing a school that fostered the type of community I wanted to surround myself with. And that's because when looking for a college, you choose not only the type of school that you want to go to, but also the type of community that you want to be part of. So you already have an idea of kind of like your likes and dislikes based on your experiences in school. In a moment, I'm going to be placing you all in breakout rooms in groups of like 2 to 3 students. And I would like you all to really reflect and share your thoughts on based on the questions on these slides. So introduce yourself and really think about what are some of the things that you like about your high school community and what are some things that you wish were different. You'll each have 2 minutes to share your thoughts. And in a couple of minutes, we'll come back and really share what we might have um, learned from this.
Together or groups come together about like
This meeting is being recorded.
with a group comes together and talks about like our accomplishments and things like that. However, we spoke about how sometimes the relationships in high school feel temporary and like they don't go deeper than a hi and bye, and how we just wish like it was a little more like personal. It felt, I don't know, like more like a community in the aspect of like emotional connections and things like that. Yeah.
I completely understand. I know that, especially once you get to really choose an environment, maybe like college, you can build those connections that might be a little more permanent. And that's something that you can really look into when you're choosing the type of community that you want to go into. Anyone else would like to unmute and talk about what they talked about in their groups?
Okay, so in my group, me and Delaney, like she goes to school in Maine and I go to school in New York. In Maine, there's like barely any people, and in New York, there's like millions of people. And it's like, although there is like a huge difference in like the population, it's still like there's like cliques and stuff. And it's like, it's not really as like, I don't think my school, being as big as it is, it's not like, it doesn't really feel like a big school.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I definitely understand that. I personally went to a really, really tiny high school down in Memphis. But there can definitely be that difficulty when it comes to maybe really how many people are at your school and trying to figure out how to really build those connections. And even in areas and schools where there are not many people, it can feel a little bit like not many people are connected. Let me just read out a couple of things that I'm seeing here in the chat. So we talked about diversity, population size, and amount of extracurriculars available. Completely understand that. I know that depending on what school you go to, you might have access to a lot of resources. And some schools, maybe not so much. So maybe depending on your experience with those type of resources, you can really get a sense of what you might want to be looking at once you go into look for schools and what type of really resources that you might want to see wherever you end up for the next 4 years or more. You talked about, once again, school diversity gives us each individual a feeling of belonging and being able to connect with other people through culture, religion. People can find they have similarities with others. Absolutely. I know that when you are able to really just pick where you want to end up, you get to go to maybe a college where people definitely are a lot more open-minded, and maybe that's something that you have experienced in school where you're able to really relate with people who have very different backgrounds, whether it be like differences in ethnicity or maybe differences in religion and just thoughts in general. And maybe at some schools that's definitely a lot more common and a lot more comfortable when you're talking to other people, but it's not may not be the case for everyone. And Abilene said in my group, they talked about the significance of teachers who care about mental health. That's definitely something that we're going to be discussing as we move on through the workshop. I'm really starting to think about how can you compare maybe like those resources that were available in high school and some of these like type of needs that you might feel should be supported as you go into higher education. I'm really, really loving these responses and really, really great work. Thank you so much for volunteering. Moving on. So we know that in your groups, you discuss some of the things that you like and dislike about your current school community. So some of you may share these likes and some of you might not. And as you search for your right environment, you might not all share the same desires or the same needs. And what you might want from your environment will vary depending on your goals, your values, identities, abilities, and many more things that might not be listed on this slide. So maybe you currently go to school. I know that some people discuss this, where you feel like you might feel a sense of being this other, or your identity might be marginalized in ways that don't feel quite good. So researching colleges that are, for example, queer or undocumented friendly can be one way of setting yourself up to have a strong support network and sense of community in college. You might also want to explore schools with different racial demographics that have a greater range of diversity than maybe your high school, or will focus on having an environment that caters specific identity. Maybe what worries you about this new environment is distance and location. So being able to go home after classes or going to school in an environment to where you are from might be what you want. And maybe you might actually choose to go to a school that was completely different to the type of environment that you were raised in. So all of these are just various factors to consider when you're thinking about your fit environment. So soon we're going to be talking about researching schools, but you can start looking at these types of colleges that might be a fit based on any of the above factors. And that can all be done just with a quick Google search, but we're definitely going to start looking at that as we move on through the next couple of weeks and next couple of months. So I know some of you were thinking about this in your groups. We have discussed how students all have various needs and desires for the college environment and what they really might find to be their best fit. So in a second, I'll be launching a poll, and I would like to know what your opinion is on this statement. So should colleges support our physical, social, and emotional needs? I'm going to give you all like about a minute or two to really start to think about this and let me know kind of what your thoughts are this. It's completely okay if you agree or disagree. I just want to get a general idea of like, what are some things that maybe are some factors that you might be considering when you go to college, and kind of like these resources that might be maybe make or break when you're building your college list. I'm going to give you all like maybe 20 more seconds and see if we have any more answers coming in. Great, that seems to be about it for everyone. And based on the poll, it seems that everyone agrees, and it's completely okay if maybe you disagreed and you might not have wanted to share quite that, but definitely when you go to college, maybe these are some things that you will feel like are something that might be important to you, or maybe not so important, not very much something that you might be a necessity for you as you go through the college application process. Would anyone like to share kind of why they agree with this statement? Feel free to unmute or put that in the chat.
I said agree because if you're going to college, you want to make sure that like it's gonna be a new environment, so you want to be like comfortable. So it should at least meet your emotional needs.
Absolutely. I think you're definitely correct. Well, at least in my opinion, I definitely believe that this is very important for really colleges to begin to support these needs. Anyone else would like to share why they agree with this statement?
I agree because I feel like for college, it's like a stressful environment sometimes, like when you're doing so many things. And I think for college, I think it kind of consider like you're going to be stressed out in certain classes. So it's not really like you don't want to do the work. It's just to understand mentally that you're kind of stressing at the
Mhm.
moment, which I feel like should be important for college in anything that you do.
Absolutely. That's definitely a very good observation. You know, like sometimes when you're going to college, once again, it can't be really a stressful environment, and having the access to these resources can be very helpful. I think Emily wanted to add in.
Yeah, I agree because some colleges set like really high expectations for their students. So I feel like for these students who have paid like so much money and basically worked for like their entire educational career to get to that point, the least the colleges can do is like be accommodating and support their physical, social, and emotional needs, especially when the need from like colleges and students are equal because the colleges, just like how the students need to go to college, the colleges can't like run without the students.
Mhm. Absolutely.
For me personally, I agree because when I think about my first year in high school was very hectic. I mean, that was also the same year. It was like fully online. So like if I didn't have any type of support system, like that would have only furthered like my depression or like anxiety and all that stuff because I felt so lost. So I feel like with colleges already taking all of this money from like students, the least they should do is like help them.
Yes, I completely agree with really and everyone in this group. Those are some really amazing reasons why I think really important reasons why this is really important for colleges to really start to, even some colleges may offer this, some may not, but really like starting to think about why it's important for colleges to really start to offer these type of resources, especially when we consider things such as, once again, like what happened not too long ago when everyone was at home. Definitely some of these resources would have been appreciated. And I feel like we've seen these pop up a lot more because of the last couple of years. So I'm just going to read through some of these messages that are coming in. So um, when I invest in college, I want them to invest in me as well. Absolutely. Um, and Jonathan says, I agree social needs is important because you need people to look up to or to talk to since college is hard. Yes, absolutely. College is hard, and that's completely something that I love that you all are acknowledging, and I really appreciate that we're definitely really starting to think about this because yes, college can be hard, and being able to have access to these resources can make it a lot more enjoyable and be able to allow you to really focus on what are the reasons that you went to college to begin with. So really getting that education and getting access to like having fun while you're going through this experience. It's important for colleges to recognize that certain variables can affect student mental, physical, and emotional health in order for their studies to stay up and to keep a good quality of life. Absolutely. When you're going into college, for many of you, maybe you're a computer student and you're able to just go to school and then go home, and you're able to maybe create some of that work-life balance. But for other students, maybe you're a residential student and being able to be in an environment where um, a college can really just have like a holistic approach to what your time there is going to be like, because it's not just about going to classes, it's also about what are the other variables to consider, because academics are not just the only thing. What are some reasons that you think someone might disagree with this statement? Feel free to unmute or put that in the chat.
I think someone could disagree because college is also supposed to be like your chance of like maturing into adulthood. So you should like go out your way to try to make college like a fit for you. So like if it's not like in like the real world, you may not have like a gym close to you. So you have to find a way to get there yourself and stuff. And I think a person may disagree for that reason.
Mhm. I definitely agree with this. I know that looking at the statement, you might start to consider your opinion might not be the same for really everyone. I think thank you so much for that. I think we're gonna move on. I just want to add in that, in my opinion, this is a really important thing for colleges to start offering, especially if they're not offering at the moment. Because at least when I think about college, it's about academics and it is about that overall support that you're going to be being provided really to achieve your goal of graduating, or really like having that support that prepares you for life after graduation. Because sometimes you may want to seek support beyond that can be offered by like a tutor. And yes, college can be stressful, and it is nice to know that after a long day of classes and really just work, you can go and have access to resources, such as maybe you really want to just work out at your school gym and really let go of these stresses. But maybe you would like to maybe talk to someone instead. And having access to things like counseling and mental health services can really help you set you up for success, and also in areas beyond academics. So at the end of the day, this is not just about the transition of high school to college, but you're also entering this era of just greater independence. So having as much support as possible in numerous ways will help you reach that goal of graduating, while also providing you that support to thrive really beyond that graduation day. So there are many ways in which schools do support you, and maybe not everyone is going to offer things like mental health services, but these are some resources that are pretty common across the board. So I'd like you all to take a moment to read through this list. It shows examples of supports, clubs, services, and that some schools provide. And keep in mind, once again, that schools are very much different, but these are, once again, pretty common. The goal really is to familiarize yourself with the various different ways that schools might choose to support their students. So I'd like you all to look at this list and maybe chat in one thing listed or not listed here that you might want to use once you're in college, or maybe a part of when you're in college. Feel free to put that in the chat or unmute if you feel comfortable.
Could you repeat the question one more time?
So I would like you all to just chat in. So you're looking at this list and maybe think of something that you might want to use that's on this list, or maybe not on this list, and something you would want to, maybe a resource or a center that you would want to be a part of while you're in college. I'm seeing some great answers here. Yes, workout facilities, bridge programs, language immersion programs. Yes, that can be something like maybe study abroad, workout facilities. I know that it's pretty common to see a very nice gym at your college. Yes, First Gen Center. Fun fact, I'm actually an intern here at the background that you're seeing behind me is actually the First Resource Center here at Tufts. So if you all have any questions about what it's like to really be a part of the First Resource Center on campus, feel free to reach out anytime. Yes, tutoring, definitely take advantage of those tutoring centers on campus. It can be a lot of, there can be a lot of different resources available. So when you think of a tutoring center, it can be things like subject specific or maybe writing support. So maybe have a really big paper, maybe have not had the opportunity to write papers like that in college. So being able to really have that resource that can help you prepare for future applications. And here we're maybe just seeing some like sources or resources, but there's also like things like social clubs that can also help out and support students in different ways that aren't necessarily just identity based or academic. And yes, I think we're slowing down a bit. We're going to move on. So before we really move on to another topic, and especially as we like think about some of these resources that I know that you all were seeing, things like identity specific things, I would just like to take a moment to really just address this inequality in higher education, which we all know is definitely there. And but because of the, the history and leadership of this country, it really resulting in inequality and injustices in society. And these are often things that are reflected in higher education. I'd just like you to remember that it is not your job, your sole job to solve these problems, and you did not create these inequities. You deserve to pursue your educational goals and be supported by your college community, regardless of these inequities that have been built up in higher education. And LGR is here to support you every step of the way. So there are also many schools that really make an intentional effort to effectively serve and or have higher populations of different marginalized student groups and identities. While the majority of colleges are historically and predominantly white institutions, such as Tufts, each student's experience really is different. So many students of color will talk about how they might feel marginalized in campuses or in classrooms, so these PWIs. But individual schools can be researched in order to have a general feel of what it's like to be BIPOC on campus. So listed here are different types of colleges that were founded to have been founded and have made it their mission to support different and specific groups of students. So in the future, we'll be sharing some docs with a more thorough list of these and many other types of colleges that maybe you'll start to think of as you're applying. Just for the sake of time, we are going to skip this poll, but once again, there are many schools in the US and really so many schools that you can look into when you start to think about what type of college and what type of community that you want to be a part of. So in general, just a fun fact, there are 4,360 higher education institutions in the US, and 1,050 of those are actually community colleges. So as you go through this process, I'd like you all to remember that really community can be found anywhere. And it may just look a little different and feel a little different depending on really the type of environment that you're looking for. You'll have the opportunity to expand and create networks of support that will include those that support you now and also new streams of support from peers, professionals, mentors that will all help you navigate and thrive during and after college. So at the end of the day, you have a lot more options and a lot more agency when you're looking at colleges. The main takeaway I really want to share with you all is that it is really worthwhile to reflect on what kind of environment and community that you want to be a part of, especially when you think about the time that you're going to be spending there, so for the next 4 years and more. And for our last concern, and for many of you guys, maybe it's some of the greater concerns, is really we're going to be discussing really the financial cost of college as well as the college degree. And for many of you guys, that might be maybe the main source of concern when you think about going to college. So if anyone would like to just help me out and read through this graphic, feel free to unmute.
I can read it.
All right,
That
thank you.
says understanding sticker price versus net price versus value. Sticker price: the college's published price, tuition and fees, room and board, etc., minus the scholarships and grants, merit or need-based aid money that you don't have to pay back, equals the net price, what you actually pay, typically with loans, saving, and income. Value is equals the education and lifetime advantages each college offers you as compared to the net price you pay.
Thank you so much. Yes, as you look through this graphic, it might seem a little intimidating when you see all these words and really like it's a pretty interesting equation. But especially when you take a look at that sticker price, it can be a little bit intimidating. But for the most part, even though colleges, especially four-year colleges, can be a lot of money, there's really no need to panic just yet. The sticker price is really rarely the price that you're going to have to be paying for going to college. You'd have to be wealthy and not receive any financial aid whatsoever for you to end up paying that sticker price. So if you take a look at that net price, you will find that this is the actual cost of a college degree. So over the next few slides, we're going to be zeroing in on that net price and value. So as we saw on the last slide, net or total price is usually paid with a combination of income, savings, and loans. And savings may not be available, and that's completely okay. So how many of you all have been hearing about student loans or student debt? Raise your hand or chat in a reaction emoji. Yes, definitely a very, very hot topic right about now. So here's some facts actually about college debt. In 2021, nearly 64% of graduates had borrowed money to pay for college. And this is all according to data reported to US News. So most students do have to take on some debt in order to complete school. However, the average student loan debt among borrowers who graduate is just under $30,000, which does sound like a big number. So let's just talk about it a little bit more. So here's a little bit more context about student loans. So some students don't have to take out any loans, and many take out usually a lot less than $30,000. So the issue with this is really that when people tend to get into this crippling student loan debt, it's really because they're treating this like not real money. All they're seeing is numbers, and they haven't really thought about the long-term effects of really taking on these huge student loans. And they're really just not trying to minimize the amount of debt they take in. It is actually estimated that there are around 1.7 million private scholarships. So there are actually scholarships available to you no matter how high your academic performance is, and for example, what your immigration status is. There really are scholarships for everyone. So many colleges, especially private colleges with large endowments, they provide full tuition scholarships to students with certain academics, athletic, or impressive profiles. There are also colleges like Tufts, for example, who are 100% need met or 100% need met with no loans for some incomes. So they'll have a limit at which they provide loans onto a financial aid package. So rather than just taking in your academic and other talents into consideration, they also focus on providing you the amount of aid you need based on the data that you report on the FAFSA and CSS profile. So make sure to get those in when you're applying to college. Over the next coming months, we're going to be talking about many different ways you can make college a lot more affordable. And if this is a priority for you, you probably want to apply to schools that may offer a little bit more aid. And you may even decide to attend a college based on the financial aid package that is given to you. So what do you all think is return on investment? Feel free to type it in a chat or unmute and share kind of what your idea of this might be.
I think the return on investment would be like after you graduate college, the amount of money you make or the amount of money you bring in, it has to like that has something to do with it.
We are definitely getting some really good answers here. Thank you, Alana, for I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Alana for unmuting. I'm also seeing some really good answers here in the chat. So is it the amount of money spent worth? What experience / money the person gets out of it? Pretty close, pretty close. So return on investment actually means a calculation of the monetary value of an investment versus its cost. So in the next couple of minutes, we'll be talking about the term return on investment and how it applies to college. So looking at this chart, what are some things that stand out to you? So if anyone would like to unmute and really share what what they kind of notice based on this graph. So maybe what are some trends that you notice based on these like education levels, and are there any gaps that you find surprising? Let me know like what are some things that you're kind of noticing from this graph.
What I noticed is the higher the education level, the more like money that person made in a year.
Mhm. Absolutely. Very, very good observation. Yes, it seems to be that definitely what we're mostly noticing is that the higher the education, the more money. So if you notice, if you're looking really at the graph and just considering kind of like those levels of education, the biggest jumps we see are really the difference between earning a four-year bachelor's degree or a graduate school degree. And there's also some pretty big jumps when you consider the difference in annual earnings for someone who got a high school diploma versus someone with a bachelor's degree. And that difference is about $30,000. So it becomes especially worth it to pursue this higher education when you think about pursuing high paying or high stability career. So what do you all think are some of the majors that tend to have a higher return on investment? Feel free to unmute or put it in the chat.
Pharmaceutical degrees.
Absolutely, we're
would
getting.
say, oh, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I
Go
would
ahead.
say something like an anesthesiologist. And because like although they go to like school for a long time, it's like when you leave, you're making like a lot of money.
Yes, if we're definitely noticing like a little bit of a trend with this. Definitely a lot of careers having to do with healthcare, engineering and STEM, so like science, technology, engineering, and math. I also saw someone mention law. Absolutely, like a lot of these careers that either require some sort of degree prior to getting into that career. So maybe like, for example, med school requires a bachelor's and then more advanced education. But generally we see a lot of, it's definitely worth it once we consider some of these higher paid areas, such as engineering STEM. There's also like computer science and web development, and really just healthcare in general are some pretty big places where you'll see this pretty high return on investment. However, though we see some of these like numbers and think, wow, I'm gonna make a lot of money if I get a higher education, there is definitely a lot of value in college that isn't just financial. So I'm going to give you all 30 seconds to answer this prompt. What are other investments that you're making yourself when you go to college? So I'm going to give you all 30 seconds. I'm going to set a timer here. And when I say go, put your answer, send in your answer for this question. So I'm starting my timer right now. All right. So go ahead and go with your answers. I see a couple of them just came in already trickling in here. Absolutely. Let's see. Connections and skills needed for society. Absolutely. School is a great opportunity for you to really build on your network and really exercise these networking skills, which are definitely one of the more important skills, especially when you go on to places beyond college. So networking, yes, a lot of social investments that you put into yourself, because at the end of the day, you are surrounded by pretty like-minded people. So you're able to really build those connections, whether it be meeting new people that probably become lifelong friends, or also connecting with potential employers and really potential people that can really help you advance your career later on. Definitely stability is definitely a really, really good, really important reason and a lot of value that goes into going into college. Experience, social skills, memories, your experience can also be helpful for others who are also going to go through a college experience. Absolutely. I know that definitely that's one of the investments that I'm putting into myself. Going into college, I'm able to do all of this with you all and really share my experiences. So if you all ever have any questions about what that's like, once again, feel free to reach out. You are investing in your social development. Absolutely. I know that when I was choosing a college, I definitely wanted to find that middle point between not too big and not too small, because once again, I had gone to a very, very tiny school, and I really wanted the opportunity to really just get out of my comfort zone and meet people that I never thought I was going to meet, and really practice my social skills, because it can be pretty difficult sometimes to really make those connections when you can maybe go somewhere that kind of like feels like a bubble. So it's really trying to like leave that bubble, if that makes sense. Yes, some of these social skills are also very helpful in the long run when you start to consider things like if you're going into areas such as healthcare, where you're going to be meeting patients every day and really just having to interact with different types of people every day and being able to feel comfortable with maybe talking to strangers all the time or things like that. That's definitely a really, really great investment that you're putting into yourself. Any other things that maybe I may not have noticed, feel free to chat those in or unmute if there's any other things that you think are pretty important investments besides financial when you're going into college. I'm seeing things a lot about networking. I'm currently taking a class with the Career Center here at Tufts, and definitely I hear networking is key about 20 times a day, and I completely agree. That's definitely one of the most important parts, at least when you have access to a lot of resources on campus that you really want to exercise. Seeing some really great answers. So some of these things that maybe I might not have noticed quite yet, but also some other things to consider that might be investments when you go into college are things like really broadening your perspectives. So when you go to college, you might have come in with just like one very specific idea of what you want to learn and what you want to experience. But being here, you really start to think about really, there's just a lot that you can learn and a lot that you can do. There's also opportunities like we might have discussed this, like language immersion programs. So things like study abroad that can put you in places where you never really thought you would be and really give you a lot of opportunities. And also things like maybe you have a couple of people in here that want to go into healthcare or just like research in general, being able to have the space and access to things like research and being in labs that have faculty that really are very much open to helping feed your intellectual curiosity. There's also, I definitely noticed these like new levels of independence, absolutely, because even if you are going to college close to home, there's definitely that shift of you really have to start to think about things on your own. Everything that you do really becomes really the consequences of your own actions. So really having the opportunity to really think through things and be like, this is all just a learning opportunity for you in the long run when you'll be a lot more independent as well. You definitely get to explore a lot of areas of interest and really explore so many career paths. And that seems to be a pretty good things you're seeing here. So we started talking here about things that we're looking forward to about college, and we also explored some common concerns that students may have. At the end of the day, when we decide to go to college and deciding what colleges apply to you should be based on you, your goals, your needs, and your aspirations. And we call this your personal why. So your why is what's going to motivate you and carry you forward when you hit the bumps in the road on your way to your goals. It will fuel you as you do the work of applying to college and really help you remember why it's worth it and that it's worth it. So the goal of the next couple of minutes, the goal of the next couple of minutes is really to start to think and really get a clear idea of what is your personal why. So stepping back to talk about motivations in general, motivations can either be internal, so something that we feel strongly drawn to and feel fulfillment when we participate in, or external, so something that gets rewarded to those close to us want for us, or society seems to expect. So these two types are also referred to as intrinsic or internal, or extrinsic and external motivations. So for example, the difference between reading a book because you enjoy it versus reading a book for an assignment. Both are completely valid reasons for reading the book, but according to studies, internal and intrinsic or slash intrinsic motivations are more likely to result in goal achievement. So when we decided some of the reasons why people decide to go to college, you all listed things that fit into both of these types of motivations. It's completely normal to feel connected and motivated by both internal and external motivators. It is important, however, to find a balance between those, and since it is what it's most important to us, since it's what's most important to us, it will really help us stick to those long-term goals and make us happy. So a little bit about my personal why. So when I was applying to college, my biggest motivation really was myself. So I am a first generation college student, and I knew that when I was going through this experience that I was going to experience a lot of firsts. And I was like, I want to just go ahead and experience as many as I can so that I can learn those lessons and really be able to give advice to those who will come after me. So I went to a really small high school, and I was surrounded by pretty much the same people my entire life. So when I was picking a university, I did want to go somewhere that was just gonna push me completely out of my comfort zone. I wanted to find a place that would fuel my intellectual curiosity while also opening doors that I never knew were available for people with my background. So I know that I wanted to pick a community where I was going to find my fit community and just feel overall comfortable. But I knew that in order to do so, I had to navigate a lot of unknowns. And you know what? It's okay because I did it. I found my perfect fit here at Tufts, and I had to do it either way, going through all these um, bumpy unknowns. But I also know that the unknowns are not over yet. But instead of scaring me, they continue to fuel my motivation to experience many firsts for years to come. So this is my why, and I would like to give you all a chance to reflect on your own why. So use whatever you have on hand, whether it be your phone, your laptop, or maybe a scrap of paper you have lying around. For the next couple of minutes, we will be doing some self-reflection and some writing. I want you to, in a list or a paragraph, answer the prompt on this slide. So feel free to turn off your camera. It's okay if not all the following parts apply to you. There is no wrong answer and there will be no group sharing. I just really want you to take a second and think about what your motivations are. So for the next 5 minutes or so, I want you to consider what your motivations are related to personal growth and fulfillment, community or service, and family and societal expectations. All right, take a second now to wrap up your list making. We're gonna come back in about 20 more seconds. All right, everyone. So as you look at this list that you've created, I really want you to take a couple of seconds and start to think about which of these motivations that you have written down feel most personally fulfilling or motivating to you. No need to share. Just want you to really just take a look at your list and start to think about which of these really feel like the most important reason for your motivations for really going to college. For example, my most fulfilling one was the fact that I was going to go into this process and it was just going to be me. So every accomplishment, every really maybe even setback was really just going to be me and me having the opportunity to really see the extent of my abilities. But it is no surprise that even then I did feel some external and extrinsic motivations. So I also want you to take a look at your list and think about what are some of the external motivations that you see written down. What are something that maybe others want for you or that you feel like you're supposed to want for yourself? So just take a look at what you've written down. So for example, I'll give you an example about me. So I know that at the end of the day, I am a first-gen student. So that means that there was definitely that pressure of if I'm going to do it first, I have to go and do as best as I can the first try because it really was kind of like setting it up, maybe an expectation for those coming after me. So that could definitely be a little bit of a pressure, but also motivation as I went to college and maybe a motivation for you as well. So even though internal motivations tend to be better motivators, many students place importance on external motivators as well. And that is normal and that is healthy, especially when there's some give and take. So when we're doing some things because we know others want them for us, but also some things that we want for ourselves. So for example, if our parents want us to stay close by for college, maybe we can find a compromise related to maybe housing, city, or the distance that we're going to be away from home. Where it becomes imbalance is when it feels like we're going to go against what's truly right for us in order to make others happy. In order to make decisions that are aligned with what we want for ourselves, we need to get it clear on what our top personal motivators are. So these can guide our decision making and really show us where we're willing to compromise and where we're not willing to compromise at all. So I would like you all to just feel free to keep reflecting on your personal why and motivations because next week I'll be reaching out and I would love to hear from each of you about this personally. If you're not sure, we can talk this through. There are no wrong answers to these questions. So today we have talked about a lot of things. We've talked about some of your concerns related to college and how some of the most common concerns can be navigated and minimized. You also reflected on your personal motivations for going to college and which of those motivations are most important to you. This is just the beginning of the conversation. We'll be talking a lot more about what kind of college experience that you want, especially as we start to create your school lists. While we probably haven't resolved everything, you're probably wondering about, well, we probably have not resolved everything you're wondering about. We know that there's going to be questions that are going to come up. So that's why I'm here. You can reach out anytime you have any questions, or really if you just want support, or really just want to talk things through. We're going to be talking a lot more about topics that were covered today and other topics that might not have been covered, and really go more in depth in the next couple of texts and in the next couple of workshops. So you don't need to feel confident about everything that we've covered. I'd just like to remind you that junior year is a great time to start planning and getting ahead on a lot of things and really a lot of reflection and tasks that will set you up to create exciting school lists and strong applications. It's also a great time to start building relationships with your teachers and your guidance counselors because at the end of the day, when you're applying, you don't really want to ask for a recommendation letter from someone who doesn't really quite know you that well. So we'll be talking a little bit more about how to maximize your junior year in our next workshop. And once again, I am always here to talk about anything you want to share. If you want to talk about your motivations, any of your concerns, I am always here. Don't feel like you can only respond when I text you. You're always welcome to share your thoughts. You're always welcome to reach out anytime. I am available pretty much 24/7. So do you all have any questions? Of course, I'll see if I can send that link to all of you all after this, if you would like to have access to these slides. Just some quick reminders. The winner to this raffle will be, the winners for the raffle will be reached out to later on. I believe the meeting is going to be closing soon. So if you would like to ask any questions, feel free to send me a text. I can answer one quick one though. So what did you find most difficult during the admissions process? That is a loaded question. So if you really want the answer to that one, I would love to just talk about it maybe over text and we can get a little bit more in depth about that. It was really, really nice meeting you all. The best way to contact me is through text message. So make sure to text me. And we'll take a quick thing before everyone leaves. There will be a survey being sent out after the workshop. So feel free to press on that, click on that link, and it will take you to a survey. It was very, very nice seeing you all. And I hope to see you in the next one. And as you are all leaving, just remember, like, if you have any questions, send me a text. I will be available after the workshop, seeing any of messages that you all might be sending me, especially as you have a couple of questions that pop up much later on.